A long time ago, in the near-forgotten year of 1989, a video game was created. Prince of Persia. Classic game, blah blah blah. Fast forward to 2002, I had just turned 1 year old and Ubisoft released the 4th entry in the series, Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time. I've never played it, but I've heard good things. The series would go on, of course, but there was one cancelled project. Well, maybe cancelled is the wrong word in this instance. More so, reworked. Prince of Persia, Assassins. Eventually, the concepts and gameplay ideas would prove to be worthy of its own separate game, and so the series that we now know as Assassin's Creed was born. And everyone loves it, no one's tired of it, and I'm thirsty. BRB, I'm gonna get some water. That's the interesting thing about Assassin's Creed, isn't it? Despite being strong as ever after 14 years, it's not a very well-liked series. Say what you want about Call of Duty, but at least it has a very dedicated fanbase. The Assassin's Creed fanbase is a lot quieter. Some say the series fell off after going strong for years. Some say it's just as good, if not better, than the early games. And a smaller sum say that it was never good to begin with. But is the hate justified? Is it simply because it's another stock yearly franchise? Or are these games really that bad? There's only one way we can get the definitive answer, and that's to play every game, one by one, and talk about them in depth. So this one's going to be a little different from my last videos. Because I was only covering one game with Kingdom Hearts 3, I made it a monolith 5-hour video. But now I plan to cover every game in this series, so I'm going to go through each game individually, with maybe a few exceptions. Putting all of the games in one video would be an actual suicide mission, and I'm very likely to not talk about any of these games for nearly as long as I did the Mickey game. For Kingdom Hearts, I felt like I needed to be very in-depth with my criticism to make what I'm saying clear. Here, I don't feel the need to do that to the extent of 5 hours per game. Here are some disclaimers before we hop in. 1. I have no plans on talking about anything other than the main series games. That means no Liberations, no Chronicles, and no Chinatown Wars or whatever. Number 2. Spoilers. So for the -4 people that care about the story of these games, turn away. 3. I'll only be going over DLC that I feel are worth going over. 4. I'm playing these games as I go along with writing the scripts, so I'm going on this adventure with you. I've only played a handful of these games prior to this, and so because of that, I may have some changes of heart about certain aspects as we go along. 5. While I'll be trying to play all of the games on PC, my computer isn't the best, so expect the performance to be a bit all over the place at times. And I might have to switch over to the console versions at some point to get a more stable experience. So the frame rate of the capture could go from 60 to 30 FPS. Luckily, I've heard Valhalla runs at 60 FPS on PS5, so I won't have to worry about that one. And with that, let's begin Chapter 1 of 12. I am so fucked. Getting back to the game's initial release in 2007, I was only 6 at the time, and yet I was around to see others play it. It seemed kinda boring to me, but something stuck with me up until today, so it must have had something I wasn't seeing. Having played a handful of these games before, but never this one, I was curious. How's it gonna hold up to today's AAA games? Nothing else to do but boot up the game and figure out. Desmond Miles is a bartender who lives a fairly normal life. That is, until he's kidnapped by one of the biggest pharmaceutical corporations in the entire world, Abstergo Industries. After being dragged off to their headquarters, a little bit about his past is revealed. He's an assassin. Or he was. He quit that life long ago to get one that's a bit less murdery. Vidic over here doesn't really believe that, but either way, that doesn't matter. In this universe, memories are stored through genetics and passed along generation to generation. It's how animals have evolved to hunt or avoid the hunters themselves. Due to Desmond's link to the assassins, Abstergo has reason to believe his genetic memories link him to others from the past. And I mean far in the past. See this thing Desmond's sitting on? It's an Animus, a cutting-edge machine that can tap into these genetic memories and play them back down to the smallest details. They want to comb through his ancestors' history. The reason for this is unknown at the moment. If Desmond refuses, they'll just put him in a coma and do it struggle-free. And once they're done, they'll kill him. So he doesn't really have much of a choice. Pretty simple so far. We're gonna quote-unquote time travel to find something that Abstergo is looking for. Can't see too much to be confused by so far. Lying down, he can see that while they weren't lying about what the machine can do, it needs context to get the memories that they want to see. And so they have to start from an early memory. With that, here we go. We're off to Crusade times. War is waging over the Holy Lands. It's a great time, you should have been there. But meanwhile, in the shadows, two groups are also at war with each other. The Assassins and the Templars. Enter Altaïr, a high-rank assassin that's incredibly cocky, killing people in the way unnecessarily, which is against the code, as well as flaunting his position and telling people of lower ranks that he's in charge when questioned.
Do not compromise the Brotherhood.
I am your superior, in both title and ability. You should know better than to question me.
He and two other assassins, who happen to be brothers, go on a mission from their master Al-Mualim. He wants us to find an object that's being held by the Templars. Once finding them, Altaïr makes his presence known and goes for the kill. But he fucked up. This guy, Robert, isn't one to go down so easily.
You know not the things in which you meddle, assassin.
After getting tossed away from the other two, he has to escape without them. Getting back to home base, he reports on his failure.
The treasure?
Lost to us.
And Robert?
Escaped.
I send you, my best man, to complete a mission more important than any that has come before. And you return to me with nothing but apologies and excuses.
Wasn't really an excuse, he stated quite clearly what happened. One of the two with him, Malik, survived at the cost of an arm, but he was able to get the item Al-Mualim wanted. The other one died in the fight. So Altaïr looks like a real dickhead right now. His cocky attitude made him fail his task and got one of his comrades killed. And on top of that, he led the Templars right to him and the other assassins. Shit's not looking good. Al-Mualim hatches an ingenious plan where Altaïr and some others jump to spring a log trap that they've had ready for some reason. That was good enough for the entire army of Templars to just up and leave. And now the assassins are saved, except for Altaïr. He displayed behavior that leaves a stain on the Brotherhood of Assassins' name. While he stopped the problem, his arrogance was the reason it happened in the first place. The 3 tenets of the creed are to refrain from killing when it's not necessary, hide in plain sight from the enemy, don't just walk up to them and say you're about to kill them, and finally, don't compromise his fellow assassins, which, you know, he failed spectacularly at. He also adds to take orders from your superiors as they're told, and don't deviate from them. And so he must be punished. He's been labeled as a traitor, and Al-Mualim's gonna show him what they do to his kind. Well, that ancestor was a wash. Who's next? Who the fuck is Hatham? Desmond's yanked out of the Animus because Vidic's assistant, Lucy, doesn't want him getting hurt from overexposure. She leaves with the stupidest walk cycle I've ever seen, and Desmond's forced into his room to rest. The following day, Vidic wakes him up and they have a pleasant convo about how the assassins almost had the right idea. Their goal is to kill people to save lives, but instead of that, they should have focused on the sources of the issues instead of the people that they were killing who were the sources of the issues. What? Whatever, Vidic is a stupid villain already. Let's head back in. Turns out, Altaïr didn't die from that shank, it was just a bit of tough love. A few things I'd like to point out about these two dreamboats. Altaïr looks exactly like Desmond, a little strange, but it makes some sense. As for Al-Mualim, his voice actor is quite prominent in the gaming world. So when he's talking, all I can hear is Easy Pete.
I should kill you for the pain you've brought upon us. Malik thinks it only fair. Your life in exchange for meat and hide, mostly. Bad trouble.
Anyway, his real punishment is to be stripped of all of his equipment and sent back to the rank of novice. You haven't any weapons or skills now, just the clothes on your back. His first mission to you as a mere student is to find someone in town who's been giving information to Robert about the assassins. The task is pretty easy. All you have to do is follow the map marker to your objectives. First thing you need to do is sit on a bench and listen to these two guys talk. There you get information that this trader is sending letters to a second trader being sent by a basket weaver. So next, we have to find said basket weaver. Alright, that was quick. Pickpocket the letter from him and give it a read. The letter writer is currently someone in town. He's not exactly keeping a low profile. He's yelling to the townsfolk that the real trader is Al-Mualim. Something about how he wants to be rid of a free world. Whatever, beat his tinfoil hat ass up and get information from him. He's actually a Templar, and he's not the only one undercover like that conversation from earlier implied. Reporting back to Al-Mualim with the fella, he gets killed and we've passed our first mission. Altaïr goes up 1 rank and earns the right to use a sword and hidden blade again. But his quest is far from over. Al-Mualim has a list here with 8 names, people that are corrupt to the core and ensure the crusades continue. We are to track each of them down and silence them. First stop, Damas. It's far, so we gotta hop on a horse and ride there. The horse controls are not great. For whatever reason, when galloping, the edge of the screen is blurred, which I assume is to give you the illusion of speed, but it's just disorienting and annoying. And the turning isn't very smooth. But other than that, it's fine, I guess. Better than Breath of the Wild's horse controls. Uh-oh, who said that? Now we've arrived in Damas, and we can finally talk about the game, not just the story. This game was released in 2007, early in the HD era, so first impressions were fairly important to really wow the player visually. And I think Assassin's Creed does a pretty great job with that. As for the graphics, they've aged well. I was expecting it to look like shit going in, but no, it looks great. It's capturing the essence of these places nearly as well as a movie could, and that's impressive. Say what you want about Ubisoft in terms of their skills at game making. There's one thing that's consistently good about nearly every game they make. These French assholes know how to make a city. Look at this, the place is big, filled with people, the building structures and placement is realistic, I'm sure I would know as someone who's never been there. They made a mechanic revolving around revealing more of the map that we all know damn well was to just get us to a high point to admire their skills at making the environment. And I think for Assassin's Creed, it was especially important to nail this aspect, and that's due to the way that you explore the city. Much like its brother, Prince of Persia, Assassin's Creed revolves around climbing and parkour. Nearly everywhere you'll find places to climb from. Window hinges, pieces of wood sticking out, Megatron, edges of roofs, and the fastest way to get around is by the rooftops. The crowds on the ground level can really get in your way at times, but there's also a downside to being on the roofs. There are patrols up there too, and if they see you climbing, they'll shoot at you. It's honestly pretty obnoxious, and I'll tell you why later. As for combat itself, it's kinda bad. From the start, you only have your sword and hidden blade as weapons. With the sword, you need to lock onto who you're fighting to, hold RT to be on your guard, which automatically blocks every attack thrown at you, and swing whenever you feel like it. Sometimes they'll block, but just keep swinging and that's bound to change. So it's very easy. The only things that'll keep you from getting super bored are some of the animations. With that out of the way, let's get back to the plot. We have to make contact with an assassin informant that's made camp in the city. Our target is named Tamir, a black market dealer, and it seems this guy has information on where to find him. But he isn't going to give it to us by order of Al-Mualim. Because he's a low rank, Altaïr needs to track down this guy himself. Now's a good time to point out that there are very few actual cutscenes in this game. It's mainly just you talking with someone while you're allowed to walk around or change the camera angle. It's a neat concept and a sneaky way to save money, but I have an issue with it. It's really distracting at times. It's not a very natural looking conversation if Altaïr is on the other side of the room or facing the opposite direction. So I'm constantly trying to get him in the right position so he faces the guy he's talking to. That would be fine on its own, but turning while standing still is really restrictive. No matter how much I point the stick in the right direction, he's not going to turn that way. He only does it for larger turns, which almost always makes your position worse. So what ends up happening is I walk in a circle to get situated, and that doesn't look very natural at all. I have ADHD, so this shit really bothers me and stops me from listening to what they're saying, especially because Altaïr's voice is so monotone.
Rafik, I do not care what the others think of me. A skilled assassin ensures his work is noticed by the many.
I don't think this was the fault of the voice actor, it's likely the direction he was given, but it wasn't the right direction. Much like the way I'm facing. Anywho, our goal is simply to explore around and see what we can find. That mechanic I mentioned earlier comes in handy for this. They're called viewpoints, and they reveal things on your radar and map on the pause menu. You can also find some side stuff by looking around, like saving citizens from being attacked and getting collectibles, like flags and living, breathing people. But what do you get from doing this? Well, for saving citizens, you gain access to things like vigilantes that restrain guards while you run away, or scholars to blend in with. Honestly, it's really not that useful. Also, you have to talk to the people after you save them, and they don't have very many voice lines.
I'll find a way to repay this kindness, I swear it. Thank you. I'll find a way to repay this kindness, I swear it.
Thank you, my boy. I only wish my sons were half as brave as you.
Thank you, my boy. I only wish my sons were half as brave as you.
And they also take a long time to shut up.
Is that the last of them? I hope so. Still, best not to take any chances. I'll hurry home. Don't think I'll leave it again anytime soon, either. You've done me a kindness, young man. Be assured I won't forget it.
So I just gave up on helping them halfway through. As for the flags and Templars, well, I'll tell you later. There's an ability called Eagle Vision that lets you spot things like these, as well as enemies and objects, but I barely ever used it. My regular eyes work just fine, just ignore the glasses. But back to our mission, the viewpoints show us where to find info on our target. Things like listening in on conversations, or pickpocketing, or beating someone up. Huh. It's strange that we're sticking with tutorial mission stuff, but I guess it's still early in the game. There are other things you can do, like racing to find another assassin with info for you, killing a certain amount of targets to help an assassin with info for you, escorting an assassin with info for you to a destination, etc. There are 6 pieces of info you can get, but you only need 2. Once you have enough, you report back to tell this guy what you know. He gives you his approval to assassinate Tamir, and gives you a feather to put his blood onto as proof of the kill. I mean, he could just put it on anyone else and lie about killing him. Semantics, I guess. Heading over to the spot you heard he'd be, there he is, having a bit of an argument with one of his workers. He needs this guy to make enough weapons for him to close a deal, but he couldn't work that fast. This sets him right the fuck off, and he repeatedly slices and stabs him with his knife, all the while the worker begs for his life. I remember I saw this scene as a kid, and it scared the shit out of me. The brutality of this action, the man yelling for forgiveness, but Tamir isn't gonna give it to him, leaving him dead in a pool of water where he says to leave him as an example of what happens when you fuck with him. It made a 6-year-old me terrified of the real world. I remember a scene from, I believe, the Watchmen movie that made me feel the same. Even now, this scene surprised me with just how brutal it is. So yeah, this dude is gonna be one hell of a first— oh, he's dead. What the fuck? Talk about wasted potential. You painted this guy to be the ultimate bastard and have him die faster than he's introduced? That's weak as hell. I didn't feel like I accomplished anything, I just walked up to the guy and took him out like he's a common goon. And his weird animus death scene sucks too. While he had a super short temper 10 seconds ago, now he's talking all calm with a stab wound in him.
For I serve a far nobler cause than mere profit. Just like my brothers.
Brothers.
But he thinks I act alone.
Well, too late to undo that one. You return to the other assassin with the feather and he advises you to return to Al Mualim. And thus ends the first part of our journey. Very lame, but also promising. It's eased us in by getting us familiar with the mechanics through these minigames. It's not great, but there's still plenty of time left in the game. Once again, Desmond's been in long enough. Now, instead of being forced into your room, you can walk around a little bit beforehand. First thing you can do is talk to Lucy. The conversation means nothing and has a lot of awkward pauses.
I could probably make it more authentic, but you ever read Chaucer?
Who?
Yeah. Definitely not for you.
Well, actually, they do say that the reason everyone in Crusade Time speaks English is because the Animus is translating everything for them. Aside from that, I just thought I should let you know that you could talk to them when they're around. But right now, all you can do is go back to your room to rest. The next day, Desmond asks Vidic why he's doing this. For the first time. Good to know he has his priorities straight. He gives a cryptic answer about how Abstergo is looking to create a better future for the world. It's really not that interesting, just getting the Animus. With each name crossed off the list, Altair goes up one rank. This time, he gets throwing knives and counter abilities. Ladies and gentlemen, the combat just went from easy to nap time at preschool. Countering does one of two things. It either knocks the person down, leaving them very open to be killed, or just outright kills them straight away. It becomes so mindless. Once again, the only thing that saves it from being too boring is the animations. I mean, come on, look at this. It's cool. Also, a mechanic I kinda like is now that Hidden Blade can be used in combat instead of just for stealth. You can't do any attacks aside from counters and the windows to do them are smaller, but if you pull it off, you have a higher chance of killing someone instead of knocking them over. A shame then that every time you enter combat, Altair defaults to the sword. For the next two targets, you have to ride the horse all the way to Acre and Jerusalem. Now this is really boring. You don't do anything while riding the horse, you just go. And you'll be seen by guards all over the place when riding at full speed, which isn't a huge problem on its own because they'll never catch up to you. But then you have to listen to the caution mode beeping for 10 hours. I went to Acre first. When I entered the city was when I first started to notice that the NPC voice lines are really low quality.
There's a murderer loose. Who did this? This is an ill omen.
No matter, let's head over to the assassin informant in this region. According to him, our next target is a doctor who's rumored to be using his patients as test subjects. To figure out more about him, we need to gather clues by going to viewpoints and doing small tasks around the city to gain info, so that's how it is. Yep. Once I realized that this was going to be the structure for every target, I was hit with a wave of disappointment. There's 7 different ways you can gain this info, but those 7 aren't so fun that you can do them throughout the entire game. Yet that's what we're doing. On one hand, this is incredibly tedious and would be hard to hold a lot of people's attention. But on the other hand, they're really easy and short. So it's not like I was struggling to play through this game from sheer boredom, but I wasn't having a blast either. And it starts to crumble more as we go along, due to more than just the gameplay loop. There's no need to go over what I did to get the info, so let's just fast forward to once I have it. We go to where he works and see another brutal scene. One of his patients tries to escape, but is caught, and the doctor has his legs smashed to stop him from doing that again. This had far less impact than the first one because I knew I was just going to kill him right after. To be fair, this time I had to actually fight him and his guards. But there isn't so much as a word spoken. And as I said, the combat's piss easy. The only reason it took me as long as it did was because I was saving him for last. Once you kill him, he claims what he did was to help his patients, not hurt. Obviously he's delusional, but this raises the question as to why we're even aiming for guys like this. Sure, it's overall for the greater good that these guys exit the picture, but in the grand scheme of things, compared to Robert, they're small fry. One interesting thing he says before he goes out, however, is that what we took from them, the treasure from the beginning, was helping him take care of his patients. So it wields some type of power, but to the extent of healing the sick and wounded? Guess we should take notes. Once he croaks, the entire city goes on high alert, and you have to escape them before returning to the informant. This is the part where I bring up that this is, in fact, a stealth game. Yet, to this point, I've done nothing but fight and run from the enemy. The only real part where stealth is useful is during chases like these, and even so, it doesn't work well. No matter where you go, they'll be on your ass. Even when they're on yellow caution mode, they gravitate to you until you're found. You need to use the seconds that you have when not on red alert to find a hiding spot. They never check those, so you just need to wait in there for a little bit before they give up. It's shallow. Once we've reported on our victory, we gain the ability to push people out of the way when running, albeit at the cost of some speed. It's pretty useful, especially because, as I said, the ground level is pretty crowded at times. But anyway, let's head to Jerusalem. After another annoying horse ride, we make it. I gotta reiterate how impressed I am with these environments. There are 3 big cities in this game, each with a rich and poor district and a section dedicated to housing royalty or the elite. It's very well done. I give Ubisoft a pat on the head for this. But my hand is wearing 10 gloves, and I disinfect it after because I don't like Ubisoft. As usual, our first goal is to head to the informant assassin, and this time it's... Malik. The guy whose brother we killed and caused him to lose an arm. Some weather, huh? Needless to say, he doesn't like us very much and is reluctant to help. But he has to, so he tells you where to go to find info. It's the same song and dance, but something I find very odd about the beat someone up for info missions is that every time they're done telling you what they know, no matter how forthcoming they are, Altaïr kills them.
I'll talk. I've no interest in dying for him. Now let me go.
Let you go?
I won't say a thing.
No, you won't.
Stop! Enough! What is it you want? Gold? I've a few pieces on me.
It's not gold I seek.
Then our business is done.
Not yet, I'm afraid. There's one last thing I need from you. Your life.
Each time, without fail, he always does this. It's just unnecessary. Fast forward, we learn that our next target is a human trafficker. He should be doing his deals somewhere out of sight. So in this house with a wide open door right here. The slaver goes on about how he's actually saving them, and very ironically, the captives beg to be saved while he's doing that.
You know nothing. It was folly to even bring you here. Save me! To think that you might see and understand.
Anywho, his men attack you, they all die in 3 seconds, and we kill him next. Once again, we killed a bad guy, but why him? The confusion can be saved for later. The Animus is overheating. Going back to our room, we see that someone was in here while you were in the Crusades. Whoever it was, they left the password to your door, so now you can walk around freely without being seen, even though there are cameras that clearly see you. Great stealth game. For whatever reasons, Lucy's personal computer is attached to the Animus, and Vidic always leaves his laptop in when he leaves, so now you can root around both of them. Here, we can discover that there were subjects before us. You're the 17th. We don't know much about the others, but 16 is the only one brought up. Aside from that, Lucy seems to be trying to figure out what happened to one of her co-workers who presumably offed herself, but all she's met with is Vidic telling her to stop looking into it. The next day, it's time to head back in. So I'm not going to go over each chapter in detail at this point until the end. Even when fast forwarding through, it's getting a bit repetitive, isn't it? So I'll just go over the story beats for now. But first, let me give you some more criticism about the game itself. As I've said before, stealth plays a very minimal role in this stealth game, but there's another aspect to it that annoys me a bit. Look here, a guarded entrance. If you walk through, you'll be attacked, so what do you want to do to avoid fighting them? Could do some of those saving citizens missions, which will let you blend in with the scholars that go right through, but why even do that when you can do this?
He's going to cause trouble.
Just hop over him. Does it seem like you would be able to see the white-robed man 10 feet above you? Shut up! That's a bit of a nitpick, I know, but this next one isn't. Climbing and parkour, as I said, plays a major role in this game. You need to do it constantly to get around, and so it sucks that it's very slow and not very functional. Some viewpoints can take a while to get to because of the speed you go on walls. It's tolerable, but barely. There were some viewpoints that I saw, which I was very reluctant to even bother with. I'd almost rather try to find the info blind. What doesn't make it much better is that it wasn't very well programmed. I'll constantly get flung off the roof in a direction I didn't even push. 75% of my deaths were just because I fell off a high rooftop by accident or into water, which apparently Altaïr can't swim in. And that makes this one assassination mission painful. I'm just trying to hop from boat to boat, but I keep jumping straight into the water. Come on! I wasn't even remotely going in that direction. Hopefully this gets better in the next game, because people won't be able to tolerate bullshit deaths like this forever. Anyway, we now have 3 targets to choose from, and thank God we unlocked fast travel. I was beginning to get really tired of the horse shit. Our next target is a crusader in service of King Richard. Remember the king, he'll come back later. But anyway, what the fuck is that haircut, chief? Yeah, he needs to go. Rockin' shit like that, not in my time period. Turns out, he plans to kill King Richard and make the place a democracy. He's been stocking up on food to ration to the people evenly. The people should be the ones ruling the kingdom in his eyes. Okay, that's not actually that bad. Things are starting to get suspicious. And Altaïr agrees, so he brings this to Al-Mualim, who says not to trust everything said by anyone to be true. One must have a critical eye over everything. Yeah, that makes sense. That's why I'm making these videos after all. Well, let's go talk to the informant about our next target.
Quite exciting, quite dangerous. I envy you, Altaïr. Well, not the bit where you were beaten and stripped of your rank, but I envy everything else. Oh, except for the terrible things the other assassins say about you. But yes, aside from the failure and the hatred, yes, aside from those things, I envy you very much.
Shut up. Our target is the richest man in Accra. He's throwing an extravagant party, complete with a wine fountain. Ah, but turns out all of these guests are actually people that fund the Holy Wars. People that want to see those who are different die. So guess what? That wine fountain is actually a poison fountain. As we all know, the taste of the two are indistinguishable. Anyone that decided not to drink are met with arrows in the throat. You catch up and kill him, but it kinda seems like he did a good thing back there. Killed a bunch of people that were funding the deaths of thousands. Again, Altaïr goes to Al-Mualim to ask why we're doing this. He says not to worry about the little details and just do as he's told. This goes against what he said 10 seconds ago about being critical of everything, so Altaïr calls him out on this. And in response, Al-Mualim whips out his sword and tells him to shut the fuck up. So I'm sure this is the point where everyone became positive that Al-Mualim is the true villain, but let's just pretend he isn't for a bit. Turns out, he was bluffing. He needs Altaïr to take the remaining people down. He's the only one skilled enough to do it. So he tells us that each person we've killed is actually a high-rank Templar working with Robert. Well, if that was the case, why didn't he tell us this in the first place? They plan to kill King Richard and his opposition Salah ad-Din so that they can be the ones to claim the Holy Land. This was good enough to convince Altaïr, and he's off to the next target. Back to Jerusalem and to Malik.
Safety and peace, Malik.
Word that the city was possessed of either. Why do you trouble me today?
God, are you still upset with me? Get over it, dude. Our target is essentially the leader of Jerusalem. He likes to be in charge of the town executions, so that's where we'll find him. Funnily enough, this time one of the people being executed is an assassin, so we have the chance to show Malik that we've changed for the better by saving him. This guy did a good job reaffirming what Al-Mualim said because he's just straight up evil.
You'd kill people simply for believing differently than you.
Of course not. I killed them because I could. Because it was fun.
This is the only guy that Altaïr kills twice because he was just too malicious.
You performed as an assassin should. No more, no less. That you expect praise for merely doing as told, however, troubles me.
It seems everything I do troubles you.
Yeah, dude, just fucking relax. Your little brother was a bitch and everyone knew it. Vidic pulls Desmond out and he seems pissed for some reason. Lucy elaborates that it's because the assassins might be coming to rescue him. But why would that be? Desmond's not even an assassin anymore. Well, turns out
that little fight your ancestors started during the Third Crusade, it never ended.
So Abstergo is actually run by Templars.
I thought Templars were old dudes with funny hats who sat around drinking beer and plotting world domination with, like, the lizard people.
No.
She's about to explain what they're specifically after, but a pesky phone call ends the conversation. Well, let's hit the sack. Another day, another dollar, am I right, fellas? Let's get in there.
Missed you this morning, Doc.
Get in the Animus.
Quit wasting.
Bet you're wondering what the significance of that treasure from the beginning of the game was. Well, it turns out it's the significance. A piece of Eden. The Apple of Eden, more specifically. It's what turns staves into snakes, water into wine, and part of the Red Sea. It's also what cast Adam and Eve out of the garden. It's what started the Trojan War, what made a young man spend months of his life making Kingdom Hearts content, and now Assassin's Creed. It is the embodiment of temptation and power, and anyone who wields it can take control of anyone they want. So that was some heavy lore thrown at us out of fucking nowhere. And guess what? It's the focal point of the entire series, bitch. The Templars want this so that they can control armies of people to fight for them. And once the dust of the Holy Wars is settled, they'll create a utopia where no one fights and no one disagrees with each other. Because they have no free will to do so. I guess that's the thing Abstergo's looking for through the Animus. They want to take over the world. How interesting. But let's focus on the old Templars for now. We have two more targets before Robert himself. One's in Damas, one's in Accra. I went to Damas first. This one's the leader of the Knights Teutonic. He's super paranoid now that he knows an assassin's out to get him.
Altaïr.
Yes, Rafiq.
I owe you an apology.
For what?
For doubting your dedication to our cause.
No, it was I who erred. I believed myself above the creed. You owe me nothing.
As you wish, my friend.
Good to see some character development from Altaïr, but it was pretty sudden. He acted pretty much the same as he did in the beginning up until now. Better than nothing, I suppose. We find the target accusing an old scholar of being an assassin because of his white robes. I get he's paranoid, but scholars have been a thing for, I assume, ages at this point. They probably never changed appearance. Doesn't matter. He kills him and heads off to the boat that'll take him to safety. This is where that annoying boat parkour part happens. I should add that there are drunk and or crazed civilians on some of the ground and the boats that try to push you off. You lose health if you kill a civilian because it's not historically accurate for Altaïr to do that. But I took that risk, fuck these guys. Once you make it through that hell, you can kill him. He reiterates what a lot of the others said, that his work was for the benefit of the people. He was going to set up a sea blockade to block the kings and queens from escaping death, and from there the Templars would rule. Altaïr's starting to feel a weird sense of remorse, but he can't quite figure out why. These guys are evil, right? They're Templars. All Templars are evil, and all assassins are good. Words to think about. But none of that for now. Number 8 is the last we need before we've fully restored our rank, and the 9 is the big bad himself, Robert. Al-Molim makes his argument against the Templars clear by painting the world as a metaphorical illusion. While the assassins wish to dispel this illusion and free everyone, the Templars wish to strengthen the illusion and trick everyone into believing they are free. Altaïr's big dumb brain slurps that shit up and heads out to his last target. He's a book burner. Believes every piece of media is a lie and that you shouldn't believe everything just because it's in text. Which, this guy's so stupid. After he's done throwing someone in one of the fires, where they die far too quickly, we go in for the kill. This guy doesn't say much like the others. He just goes out. Kind of a weak final target. Another dip outside of the Animus.
I think there's a problem with the Animus.
Nope, it's working fine.
I'm pretty sure it just ejected me
I'm
when
pretty sure you should shut up.
Alright, fuck you too then. Next morning, Vidic weirdly reiterates what Book Burner Man said about how you shouldn't believe everything history books tells you.
Or that the moon landing was a hoax. I believe there's also a book claims the world was created in 7 days. A bestseller, too.
We're at the final stretch, folks. Only Robert is left. We're given our full rank back and we must ride for Jerusalem once more. He's attending the funeral of one of the targets we killed. What's up, Malik?
Safety and peace, Altaïr.
Upon you as well, brother.
Oh, acting a lot friendlier now, aren't we? I mean, I get that Altaïr had this sudden redemption arc, but I mean, he got his brother killed and his arm needed to be amputated. You'd think a few little visits wouldn't be enough to change his opinion of him. Speaking of which, isn't one of the tenets of the creed that you shouldn't kill when it's unnecessary?
Now let me go.
Let you go?
Even now, you always do that any time you interrogate someone. And I sure have killed plenty of guards because they were mildly in my way. It's a nitpick, I know. Let's just get on with it. Robert fights with King Richard, but he plans to betray him and take over his army with the Templars. So now's the perfect time to stop him. So here we are at the funeral. Robert is the guy at the front in the helmet.
Taken too soon from this world. I know you feel sorrow and pain at his passing, but you should not. For just as we are all brought forth from the womb, so too must we all one day pass from this world.
In the womb?
It is only natural.
Ruh-roh. Seems Robert's caught scent of us. But maybe he's just looking at a pigeon behind... No, he's got us. This is one of the only fights that killed me. While there's a lot of guys to deal with here, there's also archers. I tried to just deal with the ground troops, but that proved to not be the best idea. So you gotta break away from the fight and deal with the archers while being chased by the rest of them. I like that idea. I wish there was more of it. But no matter how many Templars there are, all of them go down, along with Robert.
I would see your eyes before you die.
How far can you squirt? So clearly that is not Robert. I mean, I couldn't tell by the female-sounding grunts she was making during battle. By this point, Robert's with King Richard in their battle. Despite us taking down everyone that allied with him, his plans are going smoothly. Better, in fact. His allies we killed were on both sides of the war. If King Richard hears about this, they'll definitely be gunning for the assassins as their own separate enemy.
That will never happen. They have no reason to.
Had, perhaps. But now you've given them one. 9, in fact.
Not 9. 8.
What do you mean?
You were not my target. I will not take your life.
Okay, first of all, we stabbed her in the face. Second of all, were these guys your target, Altaïr? Admit it, it's just because you haven't spoken to a woman in this whole game. Malik advises you to go back to Al-Mualim and report to him. But being a smart boy for the first time, Altaïr says he's probably just gonna ride to Robert and King Richard. I actually like this scene, just because it's a genuine character moment for both of these people. Altaïr is trying to show Malik that he's being blind by following Al-Mualim without question, and he isn't flatly denying it by the end. And as for Altaïr, he's making his own decision instead of waiting to hear from his master first. It's not an amazing scene or anything, but it's probably the best in the game. This means we're going to a new location, which unfortunately means back on the horse. It's the longest ride and it's definitely boring, but I won't exaggerate to you and say it's a stain on the game. This new area is very simple, just a straight path to a destination. There are invisible walls blocking our path. We need to take out waves of enemies to get through each of them. It starts off simple, 3 guys to deal with, but then it ramps up to 6, then 10, then just 3 again, then 16. Holy shit, this part was actually tiring. The combat can't keep me entertained for this long, guys. And there's another 14 after. That's 52 goons, everyone. But once we're done with that, we've reached Robert and King Richard. You try to convince Richard that Robert is planning to turn on him, but he isn't buying it. After all, it was us who killed a lot of his men, not him. But Altaïr brings reasoning for each of the targets on his side. This guy was gonna kill you. That guy was gonna indoctrinate the people. That fella was clogging up the ports, and Robert is the reason that they were all gonna do it. The big man chimes in to say a big ol' nuh-uh, but honestly, Richard had his headphones in, so he just says to fight to the death, and whoever can kill the other is telling the truth. What a genius. He knows that the liar wouldn't have plot armor. So the boss battle begins. He sends some more goons out before he himself fights you, and then a single counter is enough to do him in. What was it I said earlier? This guy, Robert, isn't one to go down so easily. How about that, huh? But now, the biggest twist of all. He wasn't the one who found the Apple of Eden in the first place, but someone else, someone closer to us than we knew. The real traitor is Al-Mualim. He was working with the Templars to find the apple, but once Robert was about to procure it, he sent you, Malik, and Dead Guy to steal it. Him and Robert were supposed to be working together, but he betrayed them. And now he will betray the assassins. He used you to take the Templars down, and now that they're all gone, only you are in the way. You're his last target. It all makes sense. That's how he knew where each Templar would be, and how we wouldn't die on these dangerous missions. He knew both us and the enemy too well, because he was the enemy. He's both an assassin and a Templar, yet neither at the same time. I suppose he didn't kill us from the beginning because we're the only one who could have gotten this far. But now he'll use the apple to kill us once and for all. This is crazy. Oh, you can die, by the way. This is crazy. We gotta get back and stop him. But first, let's talk to King Dick. He believes us now that we won. He's gonna go try and reason with the enemy, Salahadin. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, who cares. Have fun, guys. Ignore the 10 million corpses of your own men that I killed on the way out. Before we can confront Al-Mualim, Desmond's gotta wake up once again. Hey, you hear that?
Oh no.
It's gunshots. The assassins have arrived early to get him. They have guns now. How modern. Unfortunately, Abstergo security has more guns, so none of them make it. And according to them, they've been hunting assassins for a while now. There won't be any more to come for him. As Vidic walks out, Lucy gives Desmond some reassurance.
I am screwed, okay? What do you want me to do?
Just try and have a little faith.
Wait, what? Where's her left ring finger? Oh, right! Forgot to mention this, but if you look at Altaïr, he doesn't have that finger either. Apparently, all assassins cut it off so that the hidden blade can retract without anything in the way. So I guess that means Lucy's an assassin. It was in plain sight all along. But hold up. Abstergo must know that fun fact about assassins, right? I mean, they're seeing what Desmond is seeing on the Animus, and they've been through 16 other subjects before him. So they never noticed Lucy's missing the same finger that every assassin is missing? Whatever. One final nap, and we can finish this fight. Vidic's extra excited today. This is the day they're gonna figure out where the Apple of Eden is. And once they do that, they'll have their little utopia. Let's give them a hand, shall we? Home base is looking a little weird. Everyone's acting kind of funky. Looks like Al-Mualim used the apple. Everyone's just standing around praising the master. But worst of all, he's turned the other assassins against you. Looks like we have to kill them. I mean, we could try to outrun them or something, but fuck it. I never really liked Carl and his stupid masked face. A bunch more start funneling in, but Malik and his boys come through for us. Him and this guy that looks like my brother are advised by Altaïr to keep any sheep from reaching the fortress. He'll go in and confront Al-Mualim alone.
The men we face, their minds are not their own. If you can avoid killing them.
I'll do what I can.
The gate is shut behind us as we enter. There's so many people around, but no sign of the big one out here. But don't worry. The map marker is telling us where to find him. In the backyard, of course. Before we can say hi, he grabs hold of us using the apple's power. Altaïr asks why he's doing this, and all he says is,
I found proof.
Proof of what?
That nothing is true, and everything is permitted. Come, destroy the betrayer. Send him from this world.
Oh, hey guys. Man, everyone's here. Like Robert and Tamir and that guy and this rascal. There's nothing special about this fight. It's just a normal one against special people. When you get done dealing with them, he pins you again. And then he makes more of himself. Alright. We're fighting a group of guys again. Once again, nothing special here. Cuts off early too. Guess he's done playing games as well. He simply wants an age of peace between everyone. No wars, no assassins, no Templars, just utopia. His motive is the same as Robert's, but like, he wanted to do it himself or whatever.
I've never been much good at sharing.
Okay, very compelling. But it seems that he couldn't control your mind like he did the others. The pin can't last that long either. You're just too good. Time for the final battle. As final bosses go, this is actually fairly decent. At least it is compared to every other battle. The main gimmick is that you have to counter him so that he teleports away. And when he does, he takes all of your health away too. So if he hits you once, you die. The majority of the fight is a game of cat and mouse really, except you're both cat and mouse. But once you counter him enough times, you break through his magic tricks and get all of your health back. And then you could beat his ass for real. Altaïr says he'll destroy the apple, that his power is too much for one person to wield. Al-Mualim scoffs at such a claim. He'll never be able to destroy it, not as long as it's able to bring about the end of all war. But he won't listen. He puts his master's body down and walks toward the apple. But it starts to project the world map, with dots showing the location of what I presume to be other pieces of Eden. Something about this is making Altaïr unable to destroy it. It's so tempting.
Destroy it! Destroy it as you said you would.
I can't.
Yes, you can, Altaïr. But you won't.
Anyway, fuck that. Wake up, Desmond. We got the map, so now Abstergo can go on their little treasure hunt to find them all. Or at least as many as it takes to control the entire world. These suits say good job to Vidic and that Desmond's help is no longer needed. But Lucy chimes in, saying he might still be useful in case anything goes wrong. Who knows, maybe the remaining assassins have set traps where some of the other pieces are. They agree, and fuck off. And so does Vidic. And so does Lucy. Now you're all alone. But hold on. Something's awakening inside you. It's the eagle eye. Remember that? I talked about it for like 2 sentences? Whatever, it's showing some weird markings on the walls and floor. We got some numbers, some Illuminati triangles, some stars. Hey, let's go check if there's anything in our room.
Oh my god. It looks like... Is that blood? What the hell were they keeping here before me? And what happened to him? What does it mean, I wonder?
Wait, what the fuck? That's it? That was incredibly weak. What happened to Altaïr? What happened to their treasure hunt? Why should I care? This is the worst cliffhanger ever. Good lord. I don't even know what else to say about this ending. You just saw it. That's where the game ends. No post-credit scene either. It's not like I was expecting a bombastic conclusion where Altaïr busts into Abstergo, reveals he never really died, and gets Desmond out of there. But Jesus, you are dangerously close to ending the game by watching paint dry. Well, that's it. There isn't any post-game content. The flag collecting and Templars to kill don't reward you with jack shit. Well, that's not entirely true. You get an achievement, but I'm playing the Steam version that has no achievements, so I didn't feel like I needed to bother. There is no real replay value to this game. One playthrough is really all you need to have experienced everything the game has to offer. The gameplay loop is far too repetitive, the controls aren't that great overall, the dialogue isn't engaging enough to not have me distracted by where I am in the scene, and the plot just felt like the writers were rubbing their hands together as they planted the seeds for the next game. I just got done playing a game that does that bullshit. I'm not in the mood to do it again. This game does not have an incredible amount going for it. But that doesn't mean it has nothing. This was an ambitious game, with big ideas. It establishes a lore that isn't really that bad. The cities are very impressive and fun to run around in, for the most part. And more importantly, the game doesn't overstay its welcome. It only took me 2 sessions to beat. None of the problems I mentioned should really stop you from finishing because of that. It's not a bad game, but it's not really a good one either. And so, it goes in C tier. That's right, I'm doing a tier list. I'm also setting up a tier list for each toe on your feet. Please submit pictures of your feet and I will rank each toe with an A to F grade. Do it. Do it. You won't.